Hello and welcome to a slightly different Samsung Next Meets. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Rory Sutherland, Vice Chairman at Ogilvy. As he says in attractively vague job title, Rory is a world-known behavioral marketing expert. The conversation resulted in so many incredible insights and sound bites that we decided to run a week-long Rory Sutherland special. Every day this week, we will share a new snippet and quote, ending the week with the full 1 hour conversation. So for those of you curious about the intersection of behavioral psychology and marketing, this week promises to be an interesting and educational one.
So Rory, I'm sure that what you just said is very thought-provoking for a lot of founders out there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of engineers in tech companies get very angry when I say this because they see marketing as cheating, that the only true measure of product superiority to an engineer is engineering superiority, which means objective SI unit superiority. But the only point you've got to realize is that if you're an engineer and you want to impress the engineers you know in other companies, you want to do something that's better than them in engineering terms. And therefore you will earn the respect of your engineering peer group. But don't assume that the respect of fellow engineers will always translate into the respect and affection of consumers, because consumers aren't engineers and don't have the same criteria when deciding on a purchase. So I'll give you an example of this. So I frequently have conversations with a wonderful AI group, Wolfram it's called, which is run by Stephen Wolfram and his brother Conrad. Mm-hmm. And they're a kind of AI consultancy, and they were talking to me about products they were working on. And they said, we managed to use AI to produce the quietest possible electric motor for an electric razor. And I said, oh dear. If you're an engineer, you want to produce a beautifully quiet electric razor. If you're not careful, the consumer will translate quietness into not very powerful and not very effective. So if your electric razor is too silent, it will weird people out because they'll think it's not really doing the job. Just in the same way that, you know, there's a limit to how silent you want an electric car to be. And I said, well, if you do produce a really quiet motor, you might end up having to put a loudspeaker inside the razor that makes a really cool noise, because we use the motor whine to determine how close to press the razor to our chin. So we're using that noise as a feedback mechanism. And so a razor that's too silent might be difficult to use in the same way that a totally silent electric car would be difficult to drive. Because to a large extent, we use engine noise unconsciously to moderate what we're doing. We certainly use it to moderate gear changes in manual cars, but we also essentially, in an automatic, we'll use the sound of the car changing gear to effectively moderate what we're doing with the accelerator pedal. And so something which seems beautifully elegant to an engineer could be a problem to an end user.